afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're catching up with us today. If you're new here, my name is Claire. Glad that you could find some time to be with us. I really just want to start by appreciating each and every one of you that takes time to watch the content that we produce on this channel, that takes time, those who have subscribed, those who share the content, those who constantly come back to give us some feedback, those who give us comments, etc. We really, really, truly appreciate you. This is another episode of your Soul Care Wednesday, and I'm not going to spend any more time trying to talk about many things. I'm going to go straight into the topic of today. I have some notes. If you see me looking away, it's just because I really want to ensure that I cover and do justice to our topic today. Today's topic is going to be on emotional eating. I've been thinking about this for quite some while because obviously if you're new here, you may not know, but I'm a very enthusiastic person about nutrition. I'm very enthusiastic about healthy living, healthy lifestyles. And so food, exercise, sleep are big on my to-do list, are big on me, and I love really talking a lot about them. So straight into the point, what is emotional eating? You may know already by now, if you are an emotional eater, you will know for sure beyond doubt, because it's not something that is like magic or rocket science to understand what it is. But emotional eating is basically when people use food as a way of coping with feelings rather than to satisfy hunger. We are meant to eat. We eat to live, we don't live to eat, right? That's the right thing to think about. Number one, we eat to live. So food that we eat gets broken down into different calories. It's of course the calories, it gets broken down into the energy that we need, and that energy will be powering out different metabolic processes in our body, and that will be the fuel that we need to keep us awake, to keep us alive, to keep us kicking, and things like that. So when you're eating, you're actually supposed to be eating to satisfy physical hunger. But when you start to eat as a way of coping with emotions, that will be emotional eating. Emotions of feelings, and it often involves eating large quantities of comfort foods, typically foods that are the HFSSs, right? They're high in sugar, high in salt, high in fat, and of course, they are also foods that will kind of in a way help you think that by eating these foods, I'm going to be responding to my stress, sadness, boredom, and even sometimes people emotionally eat to respond to happiness. Let's go straight into some of the signs of emotional eating. If you are an emotional eater, you will know for sure some of these signs. And for some of us, we may not necessarily know the signs. So emotional eating manifests itself as eating when you are not physically hungry. I usually say the hunger test. If you're really feeling hungry, take a minute and drink a cup of water, a glass of water. And if you're still feeling hungry after drinking the water, it means you're really hungry. But sometimes when you're not hungry and you're not physically hungry and you want to find yourself just constantly munching and checking food in, you might want to think, is it really something else underlying or things like that? I'm glad to see some of you live with me today. Good evening, and glad to know that you're watching with me. Number two, can manifest itself, hi Heidi, I can see you, as craving specifically for comfort food. Most of us will start craving things like chocolate. We can start craving things that have sugar in it. We can start craving fast foods. People crave cookies. People crave chips and fish and things like that. That could be another issue. That could be another factor that actually shows that you are emotionally eating. There will be also eating in response to emotions that are not really hunger cues. So you kind of, in a way, responding to ways because you're feeling like emotionally down that you want to respond to that. And of course, after that, there'll be that feeling of guilt or shame after you finished eating. And mostly it's that difficulty in controlling your eating during those emotions. So for example, today I get to a point where I'm really super angry with something. I'm angry with my husband, my son, my brother, my sister, or whatever. And then as a result of that, Samuel, I speak English. As a result of that, I get to a point point where I'm finding it difficult to control myself during this time of eating, during this time of being hungry, during this time of showing those emotions that I just want to keep on eating, to keep on eating, to keep on eating. That's something you have to think about. Maybe it can be sadness. You've lost someone, you've lost a job, you've lost livelihood or whatever. And the first instance is like, wow, let me get into food. Or when you come back home, you've had a really difficult day, you've had a difficult moment dealing with something. The first thing that you do, the first instinct is like going straight into your fridge and getting the food. Some of us actually are emotional drinkers rather than eaters, whereby at the end of the day, any kind of emotion will actually send you down the bottle. You might want to go have some alcohol. You may want to have some drink. That's something that could actually be another thing to think about. So let us talk a little bit about some common, and I can see you, Heidi, some common signs of emotional eating. Stress, right? If you have, for example, stress and you're stressed up already, as we said, is eating in response to emotions, that can actually result into high cortisol levels, and that may trigger cravings. Because you have really high cortisol levels, they'll actually make you to start to crave for those foods. And I can see you, Nicola. Sometimes it can be boredom or loneliness. Some of us eat as a result of kind of distracting ourselves from boredom, distracting ourselves from being lonely, distracting ourselves from discomfort. That's something you may want to think about. Whereas some of it can actually be childhood habits. If you grew up, for example, in a family where there's a lot of deprivation, maybe you were so many kids or you lived so many people, it gets to a point where it becomes like very difficult to be able to get food that you need that is enough, that you get to a point where you can start associating your feeding and emotions with things like that, right? You can start to also, sometimes for some of us who are parents, we can start rewarding our children. And sorry, there's some background noise. I just realized my how do you say, my neighbor's doing something, so that's gonna bring a little bit noise in the background. Apologies for that. Some of us could be when we're children, we get to a point where if we do something good, our parents reward us with food. If we do something nasty, we are told off and things like that. You can get to a point where you will want to start again rewarding yourself with comfort, or rewarding yourself, associating food with comfort or rewarding things like that, and that can result in emotional eating. The other thing can as well be things like social influences, right? Where you have like teenagers or young people coming together, or you have parties, you have dinners and things like that. As a result of that, you can end up overeating during social gatherings, during events. And if that constantly is happening, you can actually start to have it as a habit, and sometimes it gets to a point where you have to break it. Because remember, human beings are creatures of habit. Every time you do something, you'll want to constantly do it again. And that's why if you want to break sometimes some of these emotional ties to food, you have to start practicing. You have to tell yourself, this is not who I am. And you have to identify that's not the right way of responding to food. I need to respond to food in a different way, and then begin to build new relationship with food. So how can we manage emotional eating? As we've said, there are things that could be childhood habits, social influences, boredom, etc. How do we manage emotional eating? Number one, you can never deal with something that you don't know exactly what it is. As I said, if you're an emotional eater, you will know that you're an emotional eater. It will not seem like magic or rocket science for you. It's something potentially you've actually even been Googling about. It's something you might be thinking about it. So definitely identify the triggers. What triggers you? Sometimes that's why I love journaling, right? When I journal, I've said to you, for those who kept on coming back to watch this, if I'm happy, I journal. If I'm angry, I journal. If I'm sad, I journal, because I can go back and think about it and think about what are some of the things that have been triggering me this week? Maybe I've been wanting so much of chocolate. What are the things that have actually made me to kind of want to, that have triggered me to want to eat more chocolate, more crap? And then I say crap again, is food that is high in carbohydrate, refined sugars, that is more like less really nutritional value in there. And then once you do that, number two, you can actually think of like mindful eating, right? What is mindful eating? When you are eating, do you pay attention to what you're eating? Do you pay attention to your hunger cues? Do you pay attention to how many bites are you eating? Some of us, when we are eating, we have a phone in one hand, we have food in the other hand. And because we have a phone and food at the same time, we don't even think of, am I hungry? Am I full now? You keep eating and eating because you get to a point emotionally, you're withdrawn away from the process. When you start to feel full, you won't necessarily record it in your mind because your mind is somewhere else. So kind of thinking, what are some of the way, like when you are present and mindful and there with your eating, you know when you're eating, you know what you're eating. You will start to feel when you're full because you are aware, you are present. So don't engage in social media or reading or things like that when you're eating, because disruptions can actually make you not to be mindful or present at the moment. And if you're not present when you're eating, of course, you can get to a point where you start eating and making food become your reward system without necessarily knowing. Number three, find alternatives, right? If you're angry or happy or sad or whatever, when you come back home, rather than reaching straight for the food, try and go out for a walk, right? Try and jog, try and journal, try and do meditation, get away from that feeling. And then once you're still feeling hungry, even after you've done those things, you will know, Claire, you're genuinely feeling hungry rather than emotionally eating mindlessly just because of feeling and responding to your emotions and your feelings. The other thing as well is managing your stress, right? We have to face it. Life will always have stressful moments. I would love to stand here, sit here and say, I don't have a stressful life. There will be things that will bring stress in my life. I have a full-time job. I have a family to look after. I have brothers and sisters. I have demands in life. And when I allow those demands to really build up, they can actually bring stress, and I can respond to that stress through eating and things like that. But if you are able to identify the stresses, identify the things that bring stress your way, identify how do I manage this stress, you can practice things like deep breathing, you can practice things like mindfulness, you can exercise. For me, it's running. I love running. When I'm stressed out, I go out, I run, let go of these stressful moments. When I come back from a run, I can cry my way through a run, but come back home feeling much better, feeling much more relieved of the stress, and I can be able as well to continue and move on as though nothing happened. And I'm not saying that live in withdrawal or denial. It's not a matter of living in denial, it's a matter of dealing with your stress, because what you don't deal with will always come back to haunt you. If it is something that is stressing, if it's a family stress or things like that, how do you think of how can I deal with this stress? If it is financial stress, you may want to talk to someone who's a financial guru to give you some information of how to deal with that stress. If it is relationship stress and things like that, once you know, manage that appropriately. Number five, build support systems. Gosh, I can't tell you how support systems are very important, guys. Who are you doing life together with? Who are those people that today, if you're in distress, you'll give them a call, you pick up the call and call to these people and say, I am going through this, I am going through the other thing. Who are you doing life with, right? Who is in your inner cycle? Who is in those, they say, different types of friends? Who are those kitchen friends? Who are those bedroom friends? Who are those living room friends? Who is that person that you can confide in and talk to when you're going going through, when life happens, right? Let's face it, life will always happen, and it will happen for all of us, or two. And sometimes it's not four or two or whatever, but it will always happen. But when it happens, that could be your friends, that could be your family. That could be a therapist. You may need to speak to a therapist about your emotions. You may need to talk maybe to a counselor. You may need to talk to a mentor. You may need to talk to a life coach. Whoever that you need support from, identify those people, build those support systems around you that will help you to be able to overcome. And sometimes it can just be, they say confession is good for the soul. Who can I go to confess and say, I am struggling with this? Can you be my accountability partner? Next time I end up with 20,000 calories in a day. I know none of you does that. But who can you go to and say, I've messed up. I've screwed up again. I need some help. Identify and build that support network around you. And the final thing, not the last, the last, the last but not the least thing, is balanced nutrition. Right? I will never end any live stream or any video or any recording without talking about balanced nutrition. Obviously, I'm a nutritionist myself, so I really desire to talk about nutrition, but this is something that you can actually do it yourself. We are living in a world where ignorance is no defense, right? If you go onto social media, if you go onto wherever, you'll find so many people that are claiming to know about nutrition, claiming to be nutritional therapists and things like that. But you can find a good nutritionist around you that could actually help you if you're struggling with starting up, for sure. There are so many apps out there that can help you, that can be like a companion. Myself, I use MyFitnessPal, even though I know what I need to be eating healthily, because I've studied nutrition for so many years of my career. I teach nutrition, so it's not something that I would say I struggle with, but I know whenever I want to have a target of something, where can I get help from? So I use MyFitnessPal, and I'm not sponsored to talk about this, but this is something that has been really helpful for me for so long. But you can use any form of an app. You can go old school. You write down your calories in an Excel sheet or workbook, and then you work out to see, like, whenever I'm eating, what am I eating? You can think of, in the UK, we use the Eat Well guide, which will help you to know the categories of food that you should eat, the categories of food that you should limit, so to say, so that at the end of the day, you're having a balanced diet, ensuring you're consuming those high dense calorie foods regularly. Nutritious meals will help you to reduce cravings. I was talking to another lady the other day, and she was saying to me she used to have serious cravings, but she got to a point and decided to do overnight oats. And overnight oats over time have actually helped to reduce the cravings. And it could just be the beta glucans that are in the oats. It could be the fiber as well that fills you up for longer. And of course, if you're full, you won't really have cravings. We always have cravings when you are literally hungry. You end up tempting yourself or getting into temptations because your tummy needs something to eat. And when you're having those temptations, I usually say you will emotionally eat when you have availability of the food. If you're coming back to your house, and the first thing you're coming across when you're angry, you've had a terrible day, nasty, whatever, conversation with your boss, with your child, or wherever, and you open your fridge, the first thing you see are those temptations. Chances are you're not going to get away from the temptations. You reach out to the temptations first, and then after, the guilt sets in, you're like, gosh, what have I done? But if you've got, for example, I usually say in my house, if you've been to my house, you'll know that it's not something that I'm bragging about or anything. I have fruits on the table. So when I'm coming straight back home, the first thing I'll see is a banana or a mango or an orange. So once you've started to feeling like I'm upset, I'm hungry, I need to get some food, you quickly see what is more healthy on the tabletop, which will give you an opportunity to begin with those healthy meals, so that by the time you're getting into starting to think, oh, by the way, I was stressed up, how can I deal with this? You'll have already eaten something. And something that I haven't talked a lot about today is emotional drinkers, as I mentioned. if you're constantly using, let's say, alcohol as a way of comforting yourself, consoling yourself when you are upset, for example, try to think of alcohol as empty calories, right? What I mean with empty calories is that you're drinking your calories. So when you're drinking your calories, you're actually eating something that will not help you. It may dampen the feelings and take away a little bit the mind from the situation for a minute. But remember, once you get back to sober, the emotions have not gone away. And so you're kind of eating those drinking calories, so to say, rather than eating the calories. And this will actually have an impact on your body, because as you are drinking what you don't need, your body will only get what it needs. And once it gets what it needs, whatever that it doesn't need gets stored. And you find, of course, alcohol has a lot of sugar in it. So you're drinking sugar, so to say, and at the end of the day, too much sugar is also not good for your body. Even though you're trying to numb an emotion, you're trying to make yourself feel better for the moment, is not good for you for the long term. So trying to find alternatives, trying to think of like better ways of dealing with stress, as I've said, better ways of managing the feelings and the emotions, rather than dealing with them through, let's go binge drink, let's go binge eat. Because if you don't deal with the problem, you've actually masked it. If you mask a problem, the chances of it reoccurring, it will come back again. But if you deal with the root, they usually say, if you see a tree might be having the roots, the leaves, and it may have like the twigs and the fruit is all you're seeing on the outside. But if you really want to deal with the things, you may have to go to the root cause. When you go to the root cause, it will mean sometimes having to have honest conversations with yourself, sitting down and thinking, what really is making me go down this route? And then how can I get myself out of this route? Dealing with those root causes will actually provide you an opportunity to be better, equip you with enough knowledge and information so that you can be able to deal with this in the future. So if you're somebody that is struggling, let's say, with emotional eating, it is not to condemn you. Who am I to condemn you? It is just to give you information, and awareness is the first and most important thing. I've spoken to enough therapists that I know when you're self-aware, it gives you the opportunity to have moments and reflections with yourself that will help you be able to get to a point where you can deal with the situation. So start with self-awareness. What really triggers me? What really makes me do what I do? And then once you know that, you can go through the next step of identifying what are the ways we can deal with this? Who are the people that I need to deal with it? And if you need help, don't shy away from it. I've said openly, if you need therapy, go for therapy, right? Don't be scared or afraid of what people will think about you going through therapy, because if you need healing, you're better off, they say, when you have a wound, if you start kind of dealing with the wound and kind of even poking it and getting sure that it's cleaned up, it will heal, rather than if you cover it up, it won't heal. And at the end of the day, you will be causing more havoc to yourself more than anything else, right? So today has been about emotional eating, something that has been on my mind for a while. And of course, I hope you know that we are talking about soul care. If you're not emotionally well, that can actually manifest in the way, even how you feed, in the way you look after this body. As I say, our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, is the medium with which we have when you're still living in this world, because the moment you're out of our bodies is called death. We can no longer exist if we are not in this body. So we have to look after our bodies. We have to take good care of our bodies. And the way to do it is by ensuring that we prosper and be in good health. 3 John 2:1, even as our souls prosper. And one of the ways that we can prosper and be in good health is through what we eat, how we eat it, and how we relate with food. And the relationship that we have with food can really matter a lot in terms of It will impact so many things, but it also impact our well-being. It will also impact our wellness. It has been a pleasure once again being with you on this episode. Thank you so much. The many of you who've joined me tonight. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Samurai. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, One Love. Thank you for those of you who've been in the background. You have not made yourself known to us, but you have been watching. Thank you to those who will watch in 10 days, years, months, and ages to come. I really appreciate, celebrate, and love you guys. Thank you so much. If you can't consider, if you haven't done that already, consider sharing, subscribing, or liking. That will go a long way in supporting what we are doing. And if you've already done that, thank you so much for your custom. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you to our returning viewers. I truly appreciate you. As I said, know that you are loved, celebrated, and appreciated. Go change the world in the way that only you can. But until next time, one thing that I want you to do is watch out for yourself. Check yourself. And if you are by any chance an emotional eater, identify it and don't stay an emotional eater. Overcome that challenge and get yourself to become better and have a beautiful, amazing, incredible, wonderful relationship with food, which is meant for you to eat, to live, and not live to eat. God bless. Have a great evening. I'll catch up again with you next Wednesday. Same time, same place. Goodbye.